And I always try to make this point that like loving comics doesn't mean you should open a comic book store. Like everybody in this room loves comics. Like that's why we're here. But you need to love getting people excited about comics, and like that, being something that you care about. And also, um, the real question you have to ask yourself is, do you love selling shit? Because you should really like, if you love selling shit, then you're gonna love owning a comic book store. Uh, but just like in comics, like that doesn't set you up really for a job in comics.
Hi, my name is Adam Freeman. You're watching Comic Industry Insiders, or you're probably listening to it on your podcast. These days, most people are. This is our weekly podcast where we talk about the people behind the scenes of the comic book industry, the people who are shaping how our industry is going to go, the people who everybody else has been talking about and we maybe don't get a chance to hear from. This week, I have somebody that I am so looking forward to getting to know a little bit better. I've been hearing things about Eitan Manhoff long before I ever met him. It might surprise you to hear that folks in publishing actually talk to each other, and we compare notes. So when you hear about a new retailer in the Bay Area, California, which has a rich history of comics retail and colorful characters who run those stores, and that this new retailer is rapidly becoming a sales force, people like me, we pay attention. And what I found when I finally met him is that Eitan might possibly be the nicest guy in comics. Spend any time with him and you'll see someone who is genuine, loves people as much as he loves comics, and is determined to create an environment where everyone can feel comfortable and discover more about our medium. And I cannot express enough how much I've been looking forward to having this conversation. Please welcome, friends and neighbors, Eisner Award-winning Comics Pro board member, owner of Cape and Cowl Comics in Oakland, California, and softball dad, Eitan Manhoff. Did I get that name right? I was meant to ask you before we started recording. It's
Sure,
Eitan,
yeah,
right?
Eitan.
Okay.
Yeah, Eitan Manhoff.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you so much. That was super nice.
Aw.
I'm gonna cut that part, and that's what I need from now on. I'm gonna send it to all my friends. They're gonna know now that I'm nice. On record.
Anytime they call you an asshole, you go, no, it's on record. It's on YouTube.
Nope. I got the clip. Here it is. It's in the favorites.
You got it. That's going to be the first short that we pull out of this one for reels and such. We'll just run that over and over. Just your intro. That's it.
Thank you.
All right. I always like to start these off with something that, maybe pulls a little bit. We're going to jump around a little bit, but mostly I wanted to get into the story of how you created the store and what you've learned and what your goals have been. But really, my understanding is that you started this shop by selling off your own personal collection of comics and collectibles and such. So I want to hear about the one thing that just breaks your heart that you no longer have. I want to hear about that one because I'm certain it must be in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So I, for years, slowly sold off a ridiculously large comic book and toy collection that I had accumulated with my dad over, I guess it was 20 years at that point. And the stuff that stings a little bit, it's a tough question because I was so set on wanting to do this thing, and like doing this thing was so much more important than having anything. Also, my collection was not like super fancy, I mean, I was a quarter book diver for 20 years.
Sure.
I love 90s DC comics, so I have no competition when I'm trying to fill in a run. Plus, I bought all of them off the stands anyway. There were some like toys that I really loved, but also kept in boxes. The real like crown jewels. I mean, I have some For me, Death of Superman is the greatest thing that's ever happened to comics, and I have some like signed by creators that I met in person when I was 10.
Yeah.
And you know what, I just kept those because I didn't really need the $4 that bad.
Right. Because that's all they're gonna get from it. What? All right. So tell me your favorite. I mean, you said Death of Superman. I know I have a couple of answers. There's some really great DC books that came out in the '90s, but what's the one that speaks to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I got in at the perfect time because it was Death of Superman, and it
Yeah.
was Batman Nightfall. At the same time,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Green Arrow becomes like eco-terrorist and dies in a helicopter crash, and then
That's
we get a new
right.
Green Arrow. And then a big favorite. I think this is the best Green Lantern story of all time, but Hal Jordan goes completely fucking nuts and kills all the rest of the Green Lanterns, steals their rings. You
The
get the cover
rings.
where he's
That
got all the
cover.
rings.
Oh
That's the
man.
that's the greatest Green Lantern cover of all time.
It is.
There's no debate to be had.
No.
And Kyle comes in and like the Flash. I mean, like it was like such this wild time actually in the early '90s of DC, and the perfect time to jump in and like meet new characters and stuff. So I love all that stuff.
I mean, you and I share this actually because it was just before Death of Superman that I started getting kind of into comics. Like, had a monthly subscription or weekly subscription and was picking stuff up. And I remember the day that the retailer that I was shopping with, when he came to me and said, "Oh, hey, Death of Superman happened and we saved you one." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I asked you to." And he goes, "No, but I saved you one." I'm like, "What? Isn't that how they're supposed to work?" Yeah. Anyway.
He wanted a pat on the back for giving you
Yeah.
the book you asked for.
Thank you. You never had a problem. I mean, you never made me say thank you for these others that I picked up every week. But all right, thank you, I guess. But yeah, I remember those books. Those were fantastic. And even throughout the '90s, I think DC was, I don't know, is at some of its best. I
I
really
mean, it gave
enjoyed it.
us long hair Superman. Long hair Superman is
Forget about it. Mullet
favorite.
Superman is the baddest ass of all. And yet that weird electricity Superman back. Oh man,
That was
forget it.
that was rad. That
It
was
was
cool.
totally
And then he
rad.
split into two. We had red and blue. We could, I don't know, if you want to start the '90s DC podcast, like I'm here
You
for it.
down?
And as soon as this is over, we'll roll into that because
You got it.
I'm
You
ready.
got it. The minute that we wrap, we're just gonna start the first episode. We'll just keep it rolling. Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Well, so is that, like you said, you collected with your dad? Is that something that you guys had together? Tell me more about that. Tell me about who your dad was. I mean, because it sounds like that was
Yeah,
a big piece for you.
yeah, absolutely. So I was like dabbling in comics, and age 10 or so, nothing super serious. And then Superman died. And it really just kind of captured, like, my dad was aware I was doing this comics thing, but it really just kind of captured both of our imagination. And he had read comics as a kid, in the, 50s and 60s, but like most people kind of grew out of it at a certain age, and really it wasn't on his radar. Um, and so the Death Superman happened, and we kind of just dove in. And my dad is a super interesting guy. My dad's a rabbi. He's
Okay.
a former college football player uh, who loves sports and comics, and is really the best person that I know. Um, and has been my best friend through comics for 30 years now. And so yeah, I mean, and today he reads more comics than I do. He, you know, after being my comics sugar daddy for 20 years, and
Yeah.
taking me to the comic shop every Thursday and then Wednesday when it changed. Um, now he comes to the store every Wednesday and he wants his books for free.
Ah,
And he
he's
gets
got
them,
that
and
Cape
he
and
just
Cowl
takes whatever he
black card,
wants.
right? That just goes. He
That's
just
right.
goes in and gets whatever he wants, no matter who's there, right?
That's
Oh,
it. That's
oh,
it.
that's wonderful. What's your dad's name?
Harry.
Harry Manhoff. He does sound like an interesting guy. Rabbi, the comics loving rabbi. I like him already,
That's
man.
right.
This is a guy. I love this guy. And so growing up though, he was a rabbi. You were part of a temple. Is that how that worked?
Yeah. Uh, yeah. We were in San Luis Obispo. I was born in San Luis Obispo,
Synagogue. I'm
which is
sorry.
halfway between LA and San Francisco. When we lived there, it was still a small town. It wasn't like the little mini Santa Barbara that it is now.
Yeah.
Um, it was an interesting. It was kind of like a rural surf town. Like cowboys and giant trucks who actually like work with cows, who have surfboards in the back of their trucks. So like,
Yeah.
what is this place? Um, so yeah, he was a small town rabbi. Um,
That's
it's
wonderful.
been forever. Yeah.
I can see that. I can see how some of those skills would go towards comics retail. I mean, so much of being a rabbi or, being the leader of a congregation of any size, right? So much of that is about community and so much of comics retail is as well. I can see how those skills probably that you learned from him, kind of carried over,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very lucky in that my dad and my parents were both very much like choose your own adventure with religion. It was never
Mm-hmm.
like forced or nothing was expected. So I'm not really a religious person.
Right.
But I do think I learned really valuable life lessons about how to be a good person through the framework, but mostly just from my dad.
Right.
So just like, and yeah, I do think I think we carry that through to the store to some level. It's we help where we can because we can,
Yeah.
not and yeah, I think it comes from him, and for him it comes from this thing that it has been his life, for 50 years.
So you guys get involved in comics, and then at some point you decide to work at a comic shop. My understanding is that were you 12? Is that right? Your first gig?
It was, yeah, my first job. I was 12. I've been unemployed since, and it was in the sub in San Luis Obispo. Actually, I think by that point it had changed its name to Captain Nemo's Comics.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I know
really
that
cool
place.
shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially back then. I was a latchkey kid. Both my parents worked a ton, right?
Right.
And I worked. And I lived this life in the '90s and stuff that I know like some people claim wasn't real, but like I was just like out the door at 9 in the morning on my bike
Oh,
with like my skateboard behind my backpack and just like didn't come home until 6. And usually I would make my way downtown and I'd go to the comic shop, and I was that kid who hung out at the comic shop too long. And hopefully wasn't too super annoying. Um, must
yeah.
not have been because they let me start working there. I don't know how many times I had to ask. Um, now
Uh,
I wasn't like behind the register handling money, but I was
right.
filing back issues and putting stickers on things and just I think hopefully being good company.
Yeah. Yeah. Generally speaking, I think we've all had that experience where you hire in the kid that just won't leave,
Yeah.
and so it has an excuse to be there. Yeah. There's also this like weird oh wow, I can't even think. I really believe I'm going to talk about this. There's a book about being a pimp, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it's this great book on all the rappers and everybody who's really into business. At some point, they read this book and they want to quote you all these things that he talks about. But one of the concepts that he talks about is mileage on a prostitute. And how these if they know exactly how much mileage this prostitute has, and at some point you have to get rid of her or something. So this is a really awful metaphor, and I can't believe I'm doing this. But I think the kids that come in, those shop rats, they all have kind of a mileage, right? There's only so much money they can get out of mom and dad. At some point, you got to get labor out of them. So yeah, it sounds like they made that. They read your mileage.
That's right. Yeah. And plus, I mean, I was working for store credit.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was in 1993 or 94. I'm sure it was less than $5 an hour. All I wanted to do was buy quarter bucks anyway. Like I was actually just buying their trash
Yeah. Exactly.
and working as hard as I could so that they would keep giving it to me. But yeah, I mean, I think they liked me. I would read anything they put in my hands.
Right.
I was like this DC kid, like with blinders on for for, mostly for Marvel and Valiant and all this other stuff. But, if the woman worked there, put like some feminist, zine in my hands, I was going to read it, and I would talk to her about it, and if the, college student or whatever wanted to give me Dark Knight Returns, like well before I probably should have read it, then I was going to read it. I was going to have a full report, So I think we're buddies. They came to my bar mitzvah, so that's
well,
something.
there you go.
The whole store.
The whole store came to your bar mitzvah. It's adorable. Well, I get that period, especially in that area, right? You guys that was a little hotbed of alternative comics and kind of newer material. Like, because my geography is a little bit, but you're Slow is not too far off of San Jose, which is where slave labor was, right?
A couple hundred miles.
Okay.
It was reaching down, and I think it took, some of the younger people working at this store were like trying to, bring that in, as far as I remember, a long time ago. I know I read some weird ass shit from the people there, and I wasn't paying super close attention to who the publishers were or anything at the time. It's like,
because you were a kid.
These people are giving me stuff. They're cool. This must be cool. Like, let's do it.
That does jive with my memory of that period. Well, okay, so you go from there to where do you first get your first paycheck? Right? Is it there?
So we moved. So we moved to the Bay Area when I was a freshman in high school. Okay. So I was working at at Captain Nemo's, and then we moved to Hayward, which is it's Hayward. There's nothing. I got nothing to report on Hayward. We lived there in this shitty little apartment where my window, I'll like never forgive my parents for this. My window at this apartment looked out over a cemetery.
Oh, God.
And like that's all I could see. And my biggest fear in life, and I know this isn't reasonable, but I'm like petrified of ghosts. I think ghosts are very real, and I don't think they're going to do anything to me. I just really don't want to see them because I think that would be scary. So living by a cemetery, anyway.
So you're just the whole time you're in your room, you've got like any movement. You're just really sensitive to any movement outside your window.
I don't think I ever opened the curtains. Like in the year that we lived there, I don't think I opened the curtains once. It was fucking terrifying. I would go. There was a parking lot right outside my window, and I'd go out there and like shoot hockey pucks around. And if I shot one into the cemetery, like that's it. That's never coming back.
It just lives in the cemetery now. That's for you. That's yours.
I don't want it.
You don't want the.
I don't want that.
Buck,
I'd rather not play. Absolutely. So anyway,
all right. Well,
really scared of ghosts. But
so you moved there.
In Hayward, there was a little like corner secondhand comics and toy store called Treasures of Youth, or Treasures of Youth by Scott, which the acronym is TOYS.
Wow.
He this guy was like your stereotypical comic book guy, goatee. I think he had cut his ponytail off by the time I was working there. It was bald, big guy, a little cranky. But I just started going there, and
I think I actually bought comics from that guy in Texas at about the same time, and he smoked these thin cigarettes. I don't know why they were impossibly thin, but he smoked them all day long. Yes. I'm sorry.
Yes. They're everywhere. They were everywhere. I don't know that they.
We don't see them a lot anymore. Yeah. No. It's a good point.
It's probably for the best.
I think so.
But he did give me a job when I was 14. Again, for store credit. I was mostly. I think he had bought a collection of just a few hundred long boxes, and he was turning them all into quarter books. So they all just needed to come out of like their bags and boards.
Right.
And it's perfect for me because I would just make my pile as I was going. I just go home every day, Look at me. Look what I got for 6 hours in my life. I'm going to read
And your
so much
parents, I'm
Outsiders when I get
sure,
home.
have this like tiny apartment that they can afford right next to the cemetery, and you're just filling it slowly with comics. Yeah.
That sounds like their problem. I was I was good with it.
Sure you were. But that you didn't get paid there. That sounds to me like you were still spending everything on comics
I
there.
I did eventually. So he started paying me because he started to. I think by the time I was 16, so I guess I worked there for a while. Um, I had a car and I needed to buy gas, so he started to pay me. Um, but it was like cash under the table, so I guess I can't
Sure.
quite claim paycheck.
Right.
Um, but eventually, I needed a little more money. I was driving. I picked up some bad habits that cost money and things, and I needed to get a real job. So I left after a couple of years.
Yeah. I get you. So, do you is this your last no, this is this your last job at a comic shop before making the transition, or
That
did you
was
have anything else?
no, but there is a big jump.
Okay.
So from age 16 to age 28 or something, I have this like long string of dead end shit jobs, which I will break down each and every one for you.
That's all right.
If
It's a
that's what
2 hour
we're doing
podcast,
here.
but you're wearing that. I've learned that the AirPods can only last for so long, so we're gonna get through
Oh, okay, cool, cool.
that. I'm willing. I'm here for it. Let's talk about every shitty like burger flipping, construction
Yeah,
cleanup. Let's hear about them all. I'm here for it.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
okay, so jumping way ahead, in my late 20s, I'm working construction actually,
Okay.
and I discovered pretty early into construction that I'm really shitty with tools, uh, just
That's
like bad at building things.
it's a pretty crucial thing to be good at if you're working construction is handling tools.
Yep,
Yeah.
turns out.
Yeah.
But so I got into like management stuff, um,
Okay.
and I was doing really well with that and moving up very quickly, and got to a position where I was so far away from what I actually liked about construction, like boots on the in the dirt, dealing with guys who are building stuff. And I'm in an office in San Francisco building a museum in Miami. Like it was, and
Okay.
working for just like the worst guy ever, Scott Lewis. If you are watching this, I did not like working for you, and I'm not afraid to say it. That was not fun, and, uh, and I have no regrets leaving you when I
Goddamn
did.
Scott
Uh,
Lewis.
fucking Scott, God damn it. Um, but
But you needed Scott Lewis, otherwise you'd still be there, and we would be out Cape and Cowl, right? So
that's that's true.
thank you, Scott
Thank you,
Lewis,
Scott.
and
Thank you,
fuck you,
Scott.
Scott
God damn
Lewis.
it.
Is that-
And fuck you, Scott. Thank you, Scott. Oh, all right. I don't want to think about Scott anymore. It's bringing me down.
okay, I'm
I'm
sorry.
doing really well.
You were doing so good.
Um, so I leave Scott because my first kid has just been born, and I'm instead of doing that, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad.
Okay.
Because childcare in San Francisco is incredibly expensive, and I have this job I hate, and like let's just go into dad mode. And while I'm doing that, I'm going back to my old comic shop from high school, this place Crush Comics in Castro Valley.
Yeah,
Um,
I know of them.
yeah, and I'm going weekly and whatever, and telling him at this point, I'm already working towards opening a shop. And so I tell Mike, the former owner, and we're talking about it, and he eventually offers me a job at the shop,
Cool.
um,
Smart.
part time at first. Yeah, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to learn how this works before I dive in. I'll basically funnel the trash pay you're giving me at the store into a babysitter for my kid when I'm here. You're basically paying my babysitter,
Yeah.
so that I can be here and hopefully learn in the days. So I spent like a year or two working at that shop before opening.
And were you handling, like, you were managing, or were you just like working the counter? No,
Yeah, I was
just
just
bagging and
working the
boarding.
counter. Yeah, I was just yeah, doing sales. I was running his like eBay store. I wanted to be the manager. I wanted to learn about ordering, whatever.
Sure.
And it wasn't, it wasn't what he had in mind. He had told me he never really understood what a manager would do for him, which like, okay, that's
Give
cool,
you a
man.
day
Do
off,
your thing.
maybe. All right, cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I know.
he
I
had
get
nothing to
it.
do, but I would actually do like little guerrilla research. Like I'd be working the register and I'd keep a notepad and actually just write down the total of each sale and count how many sales and all these things.
Nice.
So I wanted to know what we were making on a given day, what the
Yeah.
average sale looked like. I might take little notes about what the sale was. So I was like doing my kind of super undercover research because I knew he would not be stoked on that if he found out. But
Good. Well, let's talk about that. I mean, you're talking about basically two stores as a kid, and this third one as a new father, and a bunch of shitty jobs followed by construction management. When you look back on those experiences, what informs what it eventually becomes Cape and Cowl? Because it almost can't not, right, inform something, right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, working at Crush gave me a pretty clear idea of what I wanted my store to look like, because it wasn't that. You
Okay,
know, yeah, that's super shady. But there's a new owner now, and they are lovely, and the store is like lighter and friendlier,
sure.
and just a more pleasant place to be. I was working for the guy towards the end. He was really kind of over it after nearly 30 years. So that was really important to just for the feel, the aesthetics. It was very traditional, very old school. Um, and and then I worked tons of different customer service and sales jobs.
Okay.
I my first job out of college, um, because I graduated with a sociology degree from UC Santa Cruz. So
Okay.
kids, don't do that. It's useless, and I only did it because I thought it would be easy.
So
And
you graduate from UC Santa Cruz with a sociology degree, which basically means that you just had you just understood every strain of weed, right? You understood your expertise in that area hasn't been high.
I,
And
yeah,
the pun
I probably
intended.
could have
Let's
had
let
an
that pun
undergrad.
left.
Yeah, could have minored maybe. Uh,
I'm sorry. It just seems like
so,
a real. It's just such a. I mean, you don't present as a stoner, right? But it's such a stoner. I had a sociology degree at UC Santa Cruz. Just feels like,
it
yeah.
was a big part of my life for a long time. For a long, long time, and then it's not anymore. But yeah, so when I graduated
Sorry,
college with
that
my
was a
degree in
digression.
stoner,
Sorry. Yeah.
um, I got a job delivering energy drinks and soda and
Okay.
chips out of like a panel van,
Oh. Okay.
and so pretty terrible job working for not great people. They made me change my name for the job. Uh, I have business cards. They said my name sounded too Jewish, so I got business cards that I used my porn star name, which is
Oh.
like your first childhood pet and the street you grew up on,
Mm-hmm.
which for me was Samson Cavalier, which is a fucking awesome
That's
name.
an awesome name.
And so that's why I went for it because, like, yeah,
Samson
I am
Cavalier.
Samson
So you
Cavalier.
have business
God damn
cards
it.
for Samson Cavalier? Oh
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah.
man! I don't know why you come back from that. I don't know why you even let this like that. That's got to
Uh,
be it from now on, right?
a crippling addiction to energy drinks and like those pep pills that you sell to truckers. I had to get out.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
Just for my part.
Because that's what
Uh,
Samson Cavalier rides hard, right? You
yeah.
meet Samson
Yeah.
Cavalier, you're ready for him to burst into the door like the Kool-Aid Man, like he's Samson
Boom.
Cavalier.
Got your Jolt Cola, buddy. Let's go. Uh, and you can call me Sam. It's cool. We're tight like
Yeah.
but the
Okay.
but that job was informative because it was a lot of like face to face,
Yeah.
like let's make a relationship um, kind of sales. It's like I mean, it's the liquor stores, but somebody owns that liquor store. And it's
Sure.
it's
Right.
it's their life,
And you have to
so
get
they
to know
want
what they like and what their preferences are and what they're going to need and all of those things that come into play. Customer service is about
totally,
relationships, right?
totally. So that I mean that was outside of retail, like a really formative kind of time for me for yeah how to treat people when trying to get their money.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I think what I'm scratching at here, and maybe I'll just get more direct with it, is when I look at the. I want to talk a little bit about the Eisner experience for you, because I think you've gone through the entire spectrum of the Eisner experience. But when I look at the video, at least the winning video, I kept meaning to go back and look at the older ones, and at some point I will. But what I saw was a shop that's very intentional, right? It's incredibly well thought out. It's incredibly well displayed. It feels like there are some standards that are put into place even before the design process begins. And a lot of that you don't normally see from people who just have, worked in comic shops their whole lives, right? A lot of times it usually takes people coming in from the outside to create that kind of environment. I can think of a number of stores that I think fit that bill, and they all seem to have some expertise before they come into there. So I think that are you just some sort of like child savant at this kind of thing, or was this come from somewhere? I guess my question.
probably, yeah, probably
Yeah.
just super genius.
Yeah.
I mean, it came from I just I didn't see shops that looked like mine anywhere in my sphere of comic shops. I actually didn't know that they were a thing until a couple years before I opened. Like you
Right.
talked about in the intro, the rich history of like Bay Area comic shops, and it's like there's legendary comic shops, but a
Absolutely.
lot of them are pretty traditional.
Sure.
At least in their presentation. Even if they skew one way or another, they look pretty standard as comic shops. And I don't mean that, like, I mean that lovingly. I love all those shops and I love shopping at those stores, but I
Right.
didn't see anything that might fit the bill of having like an upscale aesthetic. Um, and I didn't know that was the thing until I was living down in LA for a few years while my wife was going to school, and I wandered into secret headquarters
Right. And Silver Lake.
in Silver Lake. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was like, holy shit! Like, what? This place is gorgeous. Like,
It is.
what? You could buy comics here? Like, that's wild. I want to do that. Um, it it really
It's interesting
it
because
really opened my eyes.
I think Isotope actually predates Secret Headquarters, but I know they're right about the same time. I don't know that for certain. I could be talking out of my ass. I'm not sure. But
No, I mean,
Isotope is right there in your neighborhood, right in the in San Francisco. So
totally. But the Bay Area is funny. I'm an East Bay kid. Um, and San Francisco is another universe. Um, so as a
yeah.
kid, we didn't go into the city unless there was like some shitty show to go to that was super cheap that we could get into. But wasn't
Right.
uh, wasn't really making pilgrimages for comics. So yeah, but Isotope totally fits that bill.
Yeah.
Um, but it was really secret headquarters that kind of opened my eyes And then even further, a shop called Quest,
Mhm.
also in LA, which I've never actually been to. I've just followed them online, but they showed me that you can do like the very pretty aesthetic, but also be kind of punk or metal or hip hop, or like, really kind of put your personality on it. And that's really inspired me on the design for our store.
It's interesting. I think, to my mind, one of the things that people tend to get wrong about shops like Secret Headquarters and Isotope is that they have to be very specific, right? You need to, Secret Headquarters doesn't work outside of Silver Lake, which is this super trendy, very high income walking environment, right? Which is so rare in LA. People don't walk in LA, but in Silver Lake, they do. There's a little bit of walking. Um, yeah, you don't see those kinds of places last and except in very singular environments. And so one of the things I think I've seen from stores that I feel like get that wrong is they try and take that aesthetic and they try and put it into a smaller town or a suburb or something like that. And what you end up with is a non-viable business, right? It doesn't really work because it's like it's neither fish nor fowl, right? It is a fish and you're trying to raise it on land. It just doesn't work. So what I liked about when I still haven't been to your shop, I will someday. The last time I toured Bay Area comic shops was right after Roy Root left This Mortal Coil, and a bunch of us
Mm.
retailers, when we came for the memorial, did a tour of all the shops in that area. But what I like about your shop when I see the videos is that it does look like a sustainable business. It looks like you have taken some of those lessons and still created an environment that is designed for people to shop in. It's designed for them to find something new, right? And I think that's it's intriguing to me that you got there with the. I don't want to say you shouldn't be able to do that with the level of experience you're doing, and I know what that sounds like what I'm trying to say, but I really am. It seems like the kind of shop that you built usually comes from a different background. So that's really shocking to me.
Totally fair. Yeah. Yeah, probably just lucky. Lucky that it worked.
And you just
Honestly.
have a good aesthetic. That's not bad
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
This home you're
Just
in
looks
is
cool.
lovely. I can see how this all works together. All right, so you stay-at-home dad, you working at Crush, you know what you don't want it to be. Finally, you have a vision for what you do want it to be. You sell you off your, collection, and you decide to go ahead and go for it. Is that pretty much how that goes? That's kind of my
That's pretty much
understanding.
it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I got a little nest egg that I'm feeling comfortable with, and it feels like gotta just do it. Gotta just do it.
If not now,
If
when?
it doesn't
Right?
work,
Yeah.
you know, fuck it. At least I tried.
Yeah.
So just start looking for a spot. Um, I know where I want to be. I know I want to be in downtown Oakland. I think
Do you live in Oakland?
it's this.
Is this a
No,
commute for you?
I'm in Berkeley.
Oh,
When we were
yeah.
looking for our first home, we couldn't afford Oakland.
But you
Still
can
can't,
afford Berkeley.
but well, we just got into Berkeley.
Oh,
That's
okay.
later. This is now that I'm old. Uh, we're in
Yeah.
Berkeley, but I spent a lot of time in Oakland, hanging out. Uh, Shows that I play hockey at a rink that's right downtown that I can see from the front door of my store, and I watched it really start to thrive in a way that it didn't when I was a kid. When we'd go there in high school and it'd be like, this is kind of terrifying. We should like really, get in and out of here. But as I get older, I'm like, wow, this place is beautiful. Like
Yeah.
the people are beautiful. It's just like the most amazing, like diverse, positive space. And I knew I wanted to be there and started searching for a location and grabbed the first one that would take me, honestly.
Really? All right.
Yeah,
So
and been there ever
and that's
since.
still, you're still in that same spot.
Yeah, we've expanded it. It was 1,000 square feet when we moved in, and during COVID times, we like lockdown times, we knocked down a wall and took over. Sorry, Adam, it was a yoga studio.
Oh, God
I,
damn it.
I don't
We
mean
need
to.
more
I'm
yoga
not,
studios. You could have had a combination yoga studio comic shop. This is my dream.
I know. I'm sorry. We took it. We took all. It was a hot yoga. We had to take all the heat lamps out. It was
Oh,
yeah,
man, I do hot yoga
yeah,
every day. I could have.
yeah.
Oh man, whatever. Forget it. You know how hard
Sorry, man. I
somebody
still
worked to
have
get
some of the
those heat lamps
lamps.
in? Yeah, those things are massive. Those giant panels, those things. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah, they're crazy. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the hot yoga studios. I'm more than a little bit aware.
I
Well, tell
tried
me
it once
more.
when they were still there. It's
It's
too.
hot. It's hard. It is. These days, especially summertime, I really struggle. But I still go every day. I still do it, man. It's weird. It's heat stroke every single day. And I get home and my wife's like, "Why are you doing this?" I don't know. I just need it. I think they need it. Um, sorry. So tell me more though about Oakland itself. So you're at this point you're commuting in, and you're commuting in to build this community. I will tell you, I had this story that I told you about when going out to Berkeley, where Roy Root's store was, and I was staying in Berkeley. But we were looking for a comic shop. I think it might have actually been Comics Experience, and I think I went to the right address in the wrong city. So I was in the middle of Oakland, and it
Okay.
was a rough ass neighborhood. It was rough. Like legitimately, like people approaching us like with hands in pockets, and like it was not good. Yeah. So
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oakland's real neighborhood by neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's block by block. It's a super tough town. Like no doubt. It is, and we're in a bit of a tough neighborhood. But I think those neighborhoods and those towns deserve awesome comic shops.
I don't
Like,
disagree. Yeah.
no doubt about it. They deserve great food, and they deserve um, businesses that care. So it was, that's part of why I wanted to be in the neighborhood I am. Uh,
Yeah.
Plus, I just you can come into my shop at like any given time, and there could be 10, 20 people, and nobody's going to look the same. Like, it's always like that. It's not, oh wow, like it's like it's just there's so many different people
Mm-hmm.
from so many different walks of life, and they all tend to find their way to us, and that was the goal, and that's something I'm super super proud of.
You should be. You should be. And it does seem like a store that is designed with that in mind, right? It seems like a store that's designed to allow lots of different kinds of people find their way in. So I think that seems to work. And as I said in the intro, publishers talk, right? We talk amongst ourselves, and you seem to be growing faster than many of the other stores that are in your area, right? You seem to have found something special and are leaning into that. So good on you.
Yeah, that's wild to me to hear. It's always kind of surprising to me that anybody knows that we exist, because I feel like we're just kind of there doing our thing. Um, but yeah, we have found success. We sell a shitload of comics,
Yeah.
and that's the goal. That's the idea.
Good. All right, so I want to get into some of the other stuff that I would love to get to the mechanics of what you've landed on. But first, I want to go back to your little timeline here. So this is 2019. When do you launch the store?
Oh, 2015 we opened.
15. Oh, okay. So that far back. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And what are those first years? What are those first years like for you? I mean, we're talking 2015. I mean, so you've been fairly well established through a decent period for comic sales, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when we opened, It was slow. It was a weird time it was like the end of the New 52.
Yeah.
Um, Marvel was doing some version of all new, all different,
Yeah.
or the big two were not like
They were
carrying the
going through a
load.
lull, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I worked 7 days a week in the shop. I worked at least 10 hours a day in the shop, not counting whatever I came and did at home, um, which was super cool because my second daughter was born 3 weeks before I opened the store. So um, big, big father of the year points for me in the first year or so. Um, and like
Does the
I
family
had
join you at the shop at all, or are they? Is this kind of an independent
some.
thing? Yeah.
I mean, that was, my big plan was to have like a little, pack and play next to the
Mm-hmm.
register where Marlo would be hanging out with me and whatever. And it didn't happen. It just didn't
Yeah.
happen. Um, I'm very much in my making up for lost time era right
Good
now.
for you.
Oh yeah,
Ah,
work life balance back then.
she wouldn't have had any memories of that time anyway. It's fine. You're doing it now. That's the important bit.
No, she won't remember, but my wife will remember
Oh yeah. Oh
forever.
yeah. That is never going to let you forget. Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. Okay,
Um,
so you're gone through the period. I'm gonna jump ahead. 2022.
mhm.
You joined the board of directors for Comics Pro. At what point do you join Comics Pro in those what
I,
7 years between?
yeah, I mean, I was in the Comics Pro mentorship program before I
Oh,
opened.
right on. Okay.
Yeah, so which was like a message board
Mm-hmm.
where these like legendary retailers were there answering your questions. I mean, it was Joe Field and Car D'Angelo and Jeremy Shore, and I think Joe Ferrara, and you'd
Yeah.
post in there like, how many dollar boxes is too many dollar boxes? And when these guys would actually take the time to answer that stupid question, you know, um, or you'd
Yeah.
ask them to look at your business plan, and they would, and it was like, and it was great because at that time it was really like grasping at straw, just like anything to make this feel real,
Yeah.
that I was actually on my way towards doing this thing. And so having these guys who I really admired kind of give me their time was huge and super encouraging.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? When you're starting from, kind of a 0 to 1 space, you're really just trying to lay in bricks, right? You just, I'm heading this direction. Today, I'm going to do this bit. Today, I'm going to do this bit. And eventually, you've done enough that you can open a door, right? Yeah,
Right, right.
I can see that. That's a really beautiful service. Okay, so you really, from the very beginning, you're a Comics Pro store. Look at
Yep.
that. Look at that. They should just be like, this is what happens. Join the mentoring program right here. Look at this.
I went to my first Comics Pro meeting. I guess it must have been 2016, and I had only been open for like 3 or 4 months.
Uh-huh.
So I think when I left for that was the first time I had anybody else work in the store.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was, yeah, it was my dad came for a day, and
Oh,
a buddy from college came for a day all the way from Santa Cruz and
yeah.
like neither of them knew how to use the register or anything. They were just gonna like just be a body in the
Just figure it
store.
out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Comics Pro has been a part of my comics retail life always.
Yeah. That's wonderful. All right. So you joined the board in 2022. Um, and so let's talk about that for a minute. How much has the organization itself changed? I mean, now that you're like, you can see the mechanics, you're behind the curtain, as it were. And even back then, how have you seen that organization change in that time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for however long it was until Jen came in as president,
Mm-hmm.
for that stretch of time, it was really just a group that I felt like I could pull information from. Or like, if I had an actual business question, I'm going to post in the Comics Pro group to get a real answer. If I just need to know, like, hey, did everybody else get this stupid damage? Then I'll post in one of the other retailer groups. But if it's like
Right.
actually a decision, or I need advice about staffing or something like that, that's going to go in the Comics Pro group. And that's what it was for me. And then Jen comes in, like the force of nature that is Jen Haynes, and starts like Comics Pro becomes this like force in the industry, kind of right away. And that's when I felt like I wanted to be, I wanted to support that in a more real way.
Get and actually be part of it. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's really great. And so now what is it? Because everybody has their own. Everybody who's on the board now, you have your own little fiefdoms, right? That's and
Right.
your social media, if I'm right. Is that correct?
Yeah, director of promotions,
Okay.
which, yeah, so far I'm like the, social media intern of the Comics Pro board. But I actually, I mean, so I do think it's really important. I think Comics Pro should have a presence in like the comics social media space. Like it,
Right.
it should be seen, it should be visible, it should be a part of the fabric, and it really hasn't been. So really trying to make an effort to just like, hey, we're here. You like us. We do cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's very much how I treat our store's social media. It's just like, hey, we're here. Just make sure when you're thinking about comic stuff, like,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
us.
I can tell you that I've had my love-hate relationships with just social media in general, as anybody who grew up without it, right? And we've been introduced to it and kind of had to find our space in it. I will tell you, just this year, anybody who is paying, I don't know why you would be paying any attention to our companies, will see that we're really focusing on a bit more on social media this year. And so I know how difficult that is, right, to be that intern, because I too am that intern. Every morning I'm like, well, what are we doing today? Yeah. Yeah. So but it is something that I've thought a lot about. Like, what is the message that you want other retailers, because your audience is other retailers, right? This network of 2,500 to 4,800, whatever that number is, stores out there that would benefit from Comics Pro. So
Yeah.
what message are you hoping that they will hear from what you're putting out there?
Yeah, that Comics Pro is working for you, like, around the clock, working on your behalf, uh,
Yeah,
member or not. I think the most important thing that Comics Pro does is this advocacy, uh, and, and they're out there trying to make comic shop owners' lives better,
sure.
you know? Uh, and we could be, and on top of that, like, we can be a unified voice. Like, be part of this. Let's work together.
It's interesting you say that, but it sounds to me, just from the conversation, maybe it's because of this conversation, the way it's been guided. But it sounds to me like the thing you've gotten most out of this organization is the collective institutional knowledge, right? And not necessarily the advocacy. It's really the fact that you can ask other people who are going through it and have gone through it, the problems that you're dealing with. I mean, I don't want you to ask you to put that on a scale, but it just, it's my impression.
No, you're blowing my mind right now, Adam. That's a really good point. I think maybe I've reached a point in my like retailing career where I'm asking for a little less advice.
Sure.
Just like, well, fuck it, just gotta do it, see what happens. uh,
You
but
now know
but
which
I,
decisions you can experiment with and not bring the house down. Right. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that probably is kind of a more newfound thing. So for me, the advocacy becomes more important because I guess maybe I'm more confident in my, um, at least having enough knowledge to fake it till I make it,
Sure.
for another day. But yeah, yeah, Adam. Yes, let's start telling people about how much knowledge that they can get from Comics Pro.
I think so. Okay, so this goes to a pet theory of mine, and I apologize for what will probably sound like a TED talk. However, having been a member of Comics Pro, having gotten a whisper away from being on the board, and thank goodness I wasn't. But you know, having been with it nearly since the conception, I don't think I was around. I had a comic shop when that was formed, but I didn't join until I think maybe the end of year one or something. When I look back on that experience, what I think I needed from it was not necessarily, I didn't necessarily need an organization to say to a publisher, change this. What I needed was a group of people saying, all right, so this is the new paradigm. They just gave us this load of horse shit that we have to deal with. Here's how I'm dealing with it. How are you dealing with it? That feels to me like it's almost a more productive thing than sitting down in a room with a publisher and saying, stop giving us horse shit, you know? But maybe
Yeah,
maybe I'm jaded from having been the publisher who's shoveling horse shit. I mean, that's entirely possible. Yeah.
I think both are valuable. I think, um, maybe as a product of the pandemic, like retailers are pretty used to adjusting on the fly,
Yeah.
and like yes, you would love to get 10 opinions on what you should do, but shit, you got to do it now. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just got to do it because you're trying to still be here. And I think a lot of retailers, if I'm reading the room correctly, feel unheard, and feel like they don't have the line of communication to somebody who's going to hear them and potentially make change. But they want Comics Pro to do that for them. In some cases, expect Comics Pro to do that for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I talking to Jen Haynes, and we talked about this quite a bit during the episode with her. It's an interesting conversation, and it needs to be a conversation. Like you need to be able to come back to the membership and saying, yes, so I understand you want it that way, but there's a reason that is this way. Until they can solve that another way, they're going to solve it this way.
Yeah.
It is an interesting conversation that has to be ongoing. Like I said, I'm so thankful I never ended up on that board because that's the kind of thing you guys had to deal with. So good luck. But yeah, as kind of the so forward face, social media face of that organization, how do you think about reaching the potential retailer, right? So the person that is maybe is the stay-at-home dad who's finally gotten a job at a comic shop while he builds his nest egg, or the guy who's been around for 3 or 4 years and is now ready to like start taking this seriously. How do you think about reaching them? Are they out there? And I legitimately think about this a lot, so anything that you have, any thought you put into it is something that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think social media is like where messaging happens, in my mind. Like for me, again, it really is like, hey, we're here. We're here. Here's a broad view of what we're doing, and why. But like, come learn more,
Right.
But I'm not trying to be like, here's bullet points on the exact reasons on why you should join. I think it's just like, hey, you're a comic shop, you're a stay-at-home dad, you're getting ready to own a comic shop. There's an organization here that's
Yeah.
working for comic shops. Like, come find out more. Because I rather them send a message through Instagram like, hey, I'm looking at opening a comic shop, and I'd be like, oh, you know what? You should talk to Katie Pride, or like you
Right.
should talk to Joe Murray, or like, let me just put you in touch with one of the most brilliant people I've ever met, and they'll tell you stuff about how a great comic book store. Like, I don't see it as my duty to like convince anybody of the value of Comics Pro through social media. I think that's where social media goes wrong. you know, like,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
and maybe like, and I don't claim to be a social media expert. Like I'm not, I haven't studied it. I haven't done anything. Like I have some like social media accounts for the
You are
store that are
obviously
fairly
so
popular.
naturally gifted at the things that you love that we assume that you know what you're doing. So we ask you to fix our problems for us, Eitan. This
I'm
is
a,
your cross to bear.
yeah, that's totally fair. And I will fake that too, the same way that I've faked everything else, you know. But you know, with the store has social media that people like, you know,
Yeah.
and it's really kind of run on this like, I mean, the social media of the store is like, hey, look at these dumbasses. You like them, like come see them, you know. So we can't quite do that for Comics Pro. It's got to be a little more professional.
No, but
But it is kind of the same theory of like,
yeah.
look at this organization that you like and is doing good stuff. Come and see them. Come and talk to them. Come get involved.
Well, and I think the reason that your store's social media works, and I think part of the reason why what you've done, it has been commendable, and there's a reason I'm scratching at this, is that it's been an obvious shift for those of us paying attention, and I think it is a positive shift. But I look at your store social media, and unlike other stores who, other people even say no social media, and I'm always a little bit, they just feel insincere, right? They
Mm.
feel like they're acting like dumbasses to act like dumbasses, as opposed to you saying, "Hey, we're here, we're friendly, we're goofy, we're not we're figuring this shit out too." You know, it's that tone. I think is just it's a tonal change and it's subtle, but I think you guys hit it. So yeah, there you go.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we are actually dumbasses. And we just happen to like think
we
that's
just
kind
can't
of
lie
funny.
about
So,
being dumbasses. We
I
are
mean,
sincerely dumbasses. That's
we
what you're
really
saying.
wouldn't even know how to fake otherwise. So might as well lean in.
All right, so let's talk about the Eisner. Obviously this is an award that was a very big part of my life and has been talked about a lot on the show. um and we were talking about Rory Root. Rory was the person who said to me, you really should apply. I'm looking at your store, you should apply. So and then, God damn it, it was the year that he died that we won. So they did the like in memorial just before they gave us the award. And so I'm legit crying up there as I'm getting I was not planning it. Anyway, it's sucks. But let's talk about your
Yeah.
experience. So you were 4-time finalist. 5-time
Yeah.
finalist?
Four-time finalist. A finalist every time we were nominated.
Well, that's something.
A finalist the first year we were eligible, so only 2 years in.
Nice.
Um, so that was
So I've been 17,
2018,
18,
17.
something like that.
I don't know. We were finalists 2 years back to back, starting the first year we were eligible. Then uh, we we were not. I don't know. We might have been nominated, but didn't like submit the stuff during the COVID years.
You had
And
other
our
stuff to
COVID
deal with.
years were longer than
Yeah.
everyone else's. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we were just focused on other things. Anyway, like, what am I going to do? Also, like, here's a video of us like passing comics through a hole in the door every day for 500 days.
Oh
Um,
my God.
but
It's so
so then,
crazy. We all went through that, right?
yeah,
It's such a weird thing that we all went through. But it's like becoming such a past memory to just like occasion. Anyway, yeah, we
no,
all have this
wild,
story.
wild.
Everybody on this podcast has had that story of like, what did he even do? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Ours was extended too, but that's a whole other thing. But so our first year after opening back up to the public, we were finalists again. Um, Lost to Katie, Books and Pictures. Like,
what?
what the hell are you gonna do? You're gonna lose to
She
one of the
built the
best stores
Eisner
there is?
house. She built a
Yeah,
house to win an Eisner. It feels like she was like
yeah.
sculpting that whole thing. Yeah.
they could shape the award like her house, and everybody like, yeah, cool.
Basically, yeah, okay, yeah. This is, I mean, yeah. I mean, when you look at the criteria for the award, Katie checks all those boxes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
big time, big time.
yeah.
Uh, so then last year was our year.
It
We
was
did
time.
it. It was
It's
time.
interesting. There were two finalists that were last year that were also finalists this year, including the winner this year, Blackbird, the year that you won. They were a finalist, and one store that is no longer. Well, I think they sold. But I thought that was interesting. It's always
Yeah.
interesting to see how the stores play out. Yeah.
Blackbird was a finalist 3 years straight. The year
Dude.
before also, which I hadn't recalled. I don't know if they came to the ceremony that year, so I don't think I met them until last
Gotcha.
year. But Blackbird's unreal, and I told them this. I think I told them this, but um, going into the year that we won, I was feeling pretty good. Like I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, our store fucking rules, and I think we could
Yeah,
win this award.
this could be our year.
This could be
Huh.
our year. And I'm like watching all the other videos. I'm like, these stores fucking rule, but I feel like ours rules like all the way, and we're gonna like win this thing. And then as a judge this year, I'm watching Blackbird, and they've like leveled up to this degree, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, thank God they weren't like this last year, because there's no fucking way I beat them. There's not a chance. So thank you, Blackbird, for like
Oh, just
being
being a
halfway
little
chill last
slower.
year.
You don't have to be the fastest to outrun the bear. You just have to not be the slowest. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
um, well, so that's the thing I'm interested in. So this standard of the Eisners, like they've developed a standard that is a description of a shop, and in many ways, that standard is how to run a great space, a great store, one that's really connected to community, and all those things. I can tell you that my year, I saw Tate's video, and I'm like, oh no, there's no way we won. They got that in the bag, and then they won the year that I was judging. But so talk about the change from year to year. So first year you nominated the store, or the store was nominated. Maybe you did it, maybe somebody else did. And how have you look back at those videos? How have they shifted? And did you shift towards winning that award?
Um, n- no, no. Uh, it really been, I think our like kind of core philosophies have always been the same. Um, you know, I, the store changed physically. It got bigger.
Mm-hmm.
We added some like design elements and spaced things out, and actually, made some changes to like how we shelve product, going from publisher to genre shelving, like kind of, um, logistical things that probably improved our chances, but weren't necessarily done with the award in mind. I think we're a part of our community, because like, how could you not be
Because you are.
like
Right.
because we are. That's just who we are. Um, so yeah, without the one thing that I changed between the years that we lost and the years that we won is Katie shared her packet after winning the following year. She's like, "Hey, this is what we did," and I was like, "Oh my God, I did not understand this." I I was sending in these like 5-page PDFs with like a few pictures, like, here we
Mm-hmm.
are. We do like this really cool thing on Free Comic Book Day. Uh, hope you like it. And then and then I see Katie's packet, which is like 120 pages. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh fuck. Okay, like I have to actually do this. Like I need to show them who we are.
You have to
The
make a
video is a
case for
cute
each
little
one of those
taste.
pieces. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was kind of the big thing. But I think like as far as who we are, we've I like to think we've been that way since the jump.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad to hear it because it worked. That's excellent. You talked about your core philosophy. Your core philosophies haven't changed. Do you? It feels like you have some grasp on what that is.
Yeah. I mean, it's really to be the most welcoming store possible, right? And by that, I don't necessarily mean like welcoming to like different races or people with different gender expression or different sexualities. Like, if you're not doing that, you're an asshole. Like, don't own a comic shop. Don't I don't know. Don't exist. Like, go educate yourself and be a better person. Uh, so like that's automatic. You know, that's got to go into every decision that you do anyway, without even trying. In my opinion. So for me, like it skews more towards like I want to be friendly to the person who's never been in a comic book store before, while at the same time being friendly to the person who's been going to comic book stores every week for 30 years. Um, it's really just like making a shop that feels good and comfortable no matter what your level of connection to the material is.
I am so glad you had an answer to that. That is really good. Well, you talked to me about your. I'm giving this a name, so maybe you haven't thought of it as this name, but this came out of an interview that I heard you talking about. Tell me about the first date theory of hand selling comics.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean that's what it is. When you're in a comic shop and you're meeting people, you are going on like these little, 30-second to 5-minute first dates with people, and you have to like listen to who they are and what they want and where they come from, and you have to do it quickly, you know. Um,
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go on a first date where the other person's just like, let me tell you a bunch of stuff that has no connection to you whatsoever because you're letting me speak, you know? Uh, so,
Yeah.
you have to ask questions. You got to find out who you're talking to, and why they're standing in front of you, which I
Do you
feel like I'm
feel it?
not doing like with you right now. This is our first date, and I'm just like, boom,
Oh, you're
boom,
doing
boom,
great.
boom.
You're doing excellent. You're doing that. I had this when I moved to New York, I was single, and let's just say dating apps were really at the height of their popularity, and so I went on a ton of first dates. I basically just worked and slept and dated. It was fun. But I loved first dates because, people put on their best clothes, they come out and they want to like they shine brightly and they tell you all their favorite stories, the one that they and so yeah, I think there is a lot of overlap for me on this show and first dates because it's just drawing people out. Like, let me tell me about yourself. You know,
Right.
I never, I don't know, not enough podcasts I think ask people about their parents. I want to hear about your parents.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, it decides who you are. But yeah, so do you have any any tricks or tips for pulling people out like on this first date that when they walk in the door? Is there something that you rely on? I can give you an example. I used to ask people what they had for breakfast just because it got them talking, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm super nosy. Like, I want to know everything about you. As soon as you step in, like where you came from, what you were doing there, and why. Like, yeah, I am genuinely interested in people, like I find people fascinating for like good reasons, bad reasons, everything in between. Uh, so uh, I'm always happy to learn something, but uh, it's like pretty typical. I don't have like a what you have for breakfast. It's just like, what do you what are you in the mood for? What's the last thing? What's the last story that you um, were in contact with that you loved, and are you looking for more of that? Because let's find something
Right.
that's kind of like that, and or like some people don't have an answer ready for that. So, here's the last thing I read. Um, it was amazing, and then you just kind of pay attention to their reaction. If they're like, oh, cool, then you're not on the right track. It's time to, you know, it's all about reading the person and actually listening to what they're saying. I have a guy working for me in the store right now, and he's kind of like a wind up toy, right? Like once if you like get him going, he's just gonna like march through, and he's gonna put like 30 books in your hands, and it
Yeah.
really doesn't matter if you're and he's lovely. Like
Yeah.
I love him. But it doesn't really matter how you're responding to it. He's just like on a roll, and he's like, look at this and look at this and look at this, and you're gonna love this, and I love this, and everybody loves this and this and this and this, and sometimes be like, but you talked to that person for 40 minutes, and they didn't touch a single book that you were talking about. They were not they were not super feeling it.
This was not
Some
your opportunity for a monologue, right?
yeah.
It was an opportunity. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
also have to know when to disengage. I think that's a really important thing too. You get people started, and then let them explore, and know when
Yeah.
the right time for that is.
Yeah. It is ironic. So much of in comics in general. I think in one interview that I heard you talking about, I think you said something about I wanted to be in comics, but I don't write and I don't draw and I don't know what an editor does. It's a great line.
True.
Yeah. um, but it's interesting that when I think about the people that I've met in comics, those of us who love people tend towards retail and like promotion and PR and that kind of thing, right? If you just are genuinely wanting to connect with people, that's the skill that you and I bring to this whole thing, is that we're genuinely interested in whoever we're talking to. But so much of what is we value comes from not valuing that, right? You don't become a great artist by going to parties every night. You become a great artist by sitting down at a table with your pencil and just like jamming it out. And so very often you'll find people in those roles that aren't terribly gregarious, right? Not maybe not even not unfriendly, but I mean like not as adept at talking, right, to other folks. So
Right.
it's interesting.
Right. It is. It's like this comes up sometimes. I do that. So you want to be a retailer panel at
Mm-hmm.
Comic Con with Comics Pro, and I always try to make this point that like loving comics doesn't mean you should open a comic book store. Like everybody in this room loves comics. Like that's why we're here. But
Right.
you need to love getting people excited about comics, and like that, being something that you care about. And also, um, the real question you have to ask yourself is, do you love selling shit? Because you
Yeah.
should really like. If you love selling shit, then you're gonna love out at comic book store. But just like in comics, like
Yeah.
that doesn't set you up really for a job in comics. I don't
No. Do you love sweeping the same floor every day for the rest of your life? You're gonna love being in comics, kid. Yeah.
think.
um, it is interesting though. I find myself wondering, like, are the comics just the medium that you're working in? Right? Is the true job for you the connection, and the comics is just your way into that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is comics because I it's what gets me wanting to talk to people
Right.
about things. You know, it's it's the only time I feel probably super confident in what I'm talking about, and it's not just like I've got this deep history of the medium or something. It's just like I get it. Like I get it. I get why we're having this conversation. Comics rule so fucking hard. Let's let's talk about it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't think I could apply my feelings towards people to another industry. I mean, it helped me in construction. It did, for sure. I mean, being somebody who sucks with tools, working as a laborer, like you better be pretty good at talking to people so they don't kick you off the site.
Right,
And then
exactly.
when you get into management and you don't know how to build like a giant round fish tank, you better be able to like ask some good questions,
You
learn
know who
something new.
does? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, so I'm going to take a hard right turn out of that sort of squishy personality stuff, interpersonal stuff, into some numbers. So when I was looking at your store, one of the things that struck me, and I know this from talking to other people about, working with you, is that you're taking some bets on product. Like I saw a store that is legitimately taking confident, um, making confident buys on product that they know they can sell, and is looking to have product that they can sell. This goes counter to what a lot of stores are doing these days. There's a whole lot of just buying for the subs, and it's not even subs plus one anymore. It's just, I'm just buying for the first week. I want a first week sellout. That's not the store I saw, at least as of last year. Can you talk about that? What is when you're buying? What are the decisions that you're making, and how are you making?
Yeah. I, if I see a book when ordering that I think that, you know, the staff and I are going to love and that we'll be able to connect people to it, then I'm going to take a shot. I'm truly not afraid of failure. I think that comes from a number of different places from failing constantly, honestly, from just failing all the time.
Yeah,
I'm an athlete. I played hockey for 30 years. Like you're gonna 9 out of 10 times you go out there on the ice, you're not gonna score. And in some
right,
ways, that's a failure. I just played on Sunday. I missed so many passes that were made to me. I'm like, it's insane. And like, you got to be a goldfish, right? And you got to get back out there again, and you got to try your best, and it's kind of the same thing with comics, right? Like, yeah, I ordered 100 copies. We sold 23. Fuck it. What am I ordering this week? Like what's next?
what
What
am I
what
ordering
what are we going
100
to
of
hopefully
this week?
sell 89? Yeah, what are we going to
Yeah,
order
right.
100 of this week? Let's
Yeah,
go. And I believe in supporting um people who are also taking chances and doing things. And I believe in supporting creators that I appreciate. And I'm not afraid to put our money behind trying to get books into people's hands.
right. Well, I also did not see a store, and you probably dressed it up a little bit for the video. I mean, let's be clear. But I also didn't see a store that's drowning in overstock either, though. And that says something, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have our fair share, and we have ways of hitting like release valve to get rid of some of that stuff, from time to time.
Sure.
Um, but it's there. But we I don't know. I'm surrounded by people who love comics. The people who work for me love comics, and they really love getting other people to read the comics they love. So when I try to keep in mind my staff and my customers when I'm placing an order. And I guess I'm like trying to envision the future. Like I can see Rebecca at the stands telling everybody to read Somna because it's super horny and kind of spooky, and like everybody's gonna believe her, and they're gonna read it, or I can see um Tyler over there talking about how great this Batman series is, and it's his favorite Batman that he's read in the last 5 years, and I'm just kind of, I picture these conversations as I go, and I picture myself like, what book am I going to be out, walking around with a copy in my hands, just flashing at people, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's what it kind of how you have to do it. But I did notice, like you even talked about ordering in for the shelf new stories that you don't have a whole lot of information on. How much of your buying do you think is that? Is that like testing the waters?
Yeah, a fair amount, and honestly, not as much as it used to be, which is a bummer to me. Uh, I think the uh, the amount of product that comes out every week from the larger publishers is really taking a toll on the small ones,
Mm,
and it's making it harder to to risk the 10 copies of a book from a new publisher, from a creator I've never heard of, because the storyline sounds good, because I don't know if we want to eat none of those if we don't
right.
have the time to hand sell it the week it comes out, because there's a new X Force or a new Ultimate book, or a new Image book that there's books where, again, looking down the road, like I think we're going to sell this for the long haul. I think we're going to have 40 to 50 subscribers for this after the first week or two. And we really do have to give our attention to that, um, so that we don't miss that opportunity. But a lot of the time, the book that we only have, 9 shelf copies of, like, we might not be able to read it on Monday or Tuesday, and we might not be able to talk to anybody about it, because we have to make that hard, shitty capitalist decision to make sure we know what happened in, you know, Ultimate Spider-Man that week.
Right. Right. No, I totally get that, and you have to reorder an eighth or ninth printing of issue one.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. You talk about like you just flashed a little number there. You're going to end up with 50 subscribers. How big? How would you say? I mean, not knowing Bay Area geography very well, and certainly not knowing how people interact with driving from one community to another. Explain to me, like, how big do you think your draw is? Are you How far away are people coming to you on a weekly basis, on a monthly, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because we are in like a dense area. I have 3 stores within about 4 miles in each
Oh wow,
direction. And then San Francisco is really, it's just across the bridge. It's not far in distance. It's just like far in our collective
psychologically,
consciousness.
yeah.
So yeah, people do come, from a ways out. They'll come on the weekends instead of during the week. Um, we have people who are with us for a few years and then move out of Oakland, but they want to stay with us. So they're still our subscribers, and we just ship to them once a month. Um, but it is interesting, because we do a fair amount of business, right? And we came into a dense market, and I don't think we took a ton of business away from anyone else. And this is something you've talked about on this podcast a whole bunch of times, right? Like, it's not that, like, the people are in a certain geography and are reading comics. They like connect to a store,
Hmm.
and and like the same way that those readers might go away if the store goes away, new readers may pop in because a new store pops up.
Yeah.
And I think we did a really good job of bringing a lot of people in. I've got tons of subscribers that have been with us since the very beginning, who just happened to walk in on lunch break and then, we got our claws into them, and, and now they're subscribed for $15 9 years later.
You changed their lives forever. Wow. Well, that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, it is an ongoing conversation. I think it's one of the things to celebrate most about comic shops, and the reason why we haven't seen, I don't think we have, and ever will see, the kind of death of the comic shop that we saw for the death of the record store or the death of the bookstore. I just think that there's something, I don't know, there's something special about that interaction, and I do think it's about the experience of going into the shop that just makes it so special. But what do I know,
Yeah,
man?
I agree.
I just worked in comic shops my whole life.
I think there's something special about the comic shop. Like, it's just this super unique thing, I think, that even stands above a record store or bookstores. I think it's such a special piece of people's lives, and that's why you get new shops opening all the time, because they want to recreate that thing. And I think, record stores might be more people who love music, who love collecting records, like they love it. But is it because they went to a record store every week and, invited the record store workers to their bar mitzvah when they were 13? I don't think so. I don't think it's the same. I think with comic shops, we just, like, it's just a part of our whole week, like, revolves around going to the comic shop on Wednesday, right? Like, it's I don't even understand how people get through a week if they don't have Wednesday. Like, what a nightmare. Like, you don't have this tentpole to get to in the middle of the week. Like, I'm so sorry for you. Please come to the store so I can, like, make your life better and give you something for Wednesday. So I think it's just more a part of people's lives than any other, like, small business, than maybe like a bar or something.
Can I tell you, we've recently started pulling out clips for shorts, and so I'm getting a better ear for short. Your shorts game is killing on this episode. You're murdering the shorts game. There's gonna be so much for me to play with. So talk to me about staffing. This is one of those things that I think we all struggle with. Anybody who owns and runs a business, the hardest part is about how do you leverage your knowledge and your passion into more, right? And the only way is to buy, hire and communicate that to someone else. So talk about how you thought about that. Did you have any experience going in, and what has the experience been like? How are you feeling about it these days?
Yeah. Staffing, I think, is the secret sauce. Actually, that was a question that was presented to me directly at the So You Want to Be a Retailer panel at Comic-Con. Somebody was like, I've been to your store. I love it. What's the secret sauce? And kind of on the spot, I was like, oh man, it's the people. It's 100% the people that we bring in to work there. And I've been so lucky to have just these incredible people that I'm like, that are still a part of my life, even if they don't work there. It's you got to have people who, like, they love, they got to love comics. They have to be trustworthy. They have to love the store and care for the store, but they have to, like, it has to be important to them to turn people on to other comics, to help people find something that means something to them. So, like, when I hire, we have an application, and it's like, I don't know, it's a bunch of questions, and they need to attach a resume. And it's like, that part of it is like, can you follow instructions? Can you, like, fill this thing out and send a resume? Turns out super hard. Most people don't do it.
Yep.
Don't, even though it's like the first line is like, please send a resume after you fill this in. Like, 90% of people don't. And then when we bring them in for an interview, it's just a conversation, and like, yes, I'll be talking at them about the store and what the job is and what some of the responsibilities are, and it's like, how well do they hold up their side of the conversation, and then can I pick up on like how important inclusivity is to them, and are they going to be welcoming? Are they, do I ever have to worry that they're just going to like, all they're going to want to do is chat to the other staff members about movies and video games, whatever? Are they going to be like, ooh, somebody's here, let's talk to them about comics?
Yeah. 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 In finding that person, man, it's got to be an ongoing challenge. All right. So this one, I'm just gonna be bald faced with this one. Okay. This one's real on the nose. You've said more than once that you've been watching the show or listening to the show. I'm not sure how you interact, and you've told me at least one or two things that you've kind of taken from the show. Can you tell the audience, just so I can be? This is just, I'm gonna purely pull this out. Comic industry insiders, I've learned these things from this show, because I will say that, like, part of my job, my goal here was, my goal with Prana has been to build the direct market, to build comics, to build the industry that we have, to be a force for building that. And so this show was about that too. And I really genuinely wanted to bring retail voices in that could help inform others. And so when you told me that it was informing you who I incredibly respect your abilities already, it was like, oh, all right, at least I'm doing something here.
Yeah, no, man,
Yeah.
I am a super fan of Comics Industry Insiders. I've listened to it so much in the last month that, like, you are an ever-present voice in my head. You are both
Sorry.
the devil and the angel sitting on my shoulder, and you know why. Uh, and and I've loved it. I've loved it so much. Like, this is the podcast I want to listen to because I want to listen to other retailers. I want to listen to people on the business side, who are, like, listening to a creator interview is cool. But listening to somebody um, from another store, or who does like the marketing for a publisher, is like way more interesting and has more value to me. And so for specifics, like, I, Steve Anderson, who I've never met, I think is brilliant. Like, I look at those Third Eye stores and I'm like, holy shit, that's what I want to be. I mean, I want to be the Cape and Cowl version of that, which would be different, but like,
I think you're
but
there.
man, is that
Yeah.
shit dialed in.
Yeah.
And you had a conversation with him talking about customer service, because customer service is like his number one be all end all thing, like the customer experience in the store. And we were having like a little bit of like a sales slump, and I have this amazing staff who I love spending time with, and I think are so good. But they're also like little worker bees. They love a project. They want to like check things off a list, and they want to get things done. And when I show up, they want to show me all the things that they did. And it's great. But I was like sent a staff email and maybe a message in the group chat, like, hey guys, you know, let's make some sales. Like, let's put the books down, put the price gun down, and like, let's go like sell some comics to people.
Yeah.
Right? And
Let's
then
get some numbers on the
right around
board,
that,
kids.
let's put some numbers on the board. Let's score a couple goals here. We're trying to win a game. Um, and right around that time, maybe just after sending like that email, I listened to this interview with you and Steve Anderson, and he was talking about customer service. And I'm like, God damn it, Eitan, you fucking asshole! Like, it's not about sale. Like, it's not sales. Like,
Yeah.
we need to be focusing on customer service. We need to be connecting with people the way that we do, the way that, like, I think makes us who we are. Like, stop telling your crew to go make sales, and go tell them to like connect with people. Go find out. And like, if you don't sell them $100 in trades, but you like find out what they had for breakfast in the morning, or maybe set up a real first date. I don't know. No, don't do that, creepy weirdos. But really like,
Wouldn't be the first time that's happened in a comic shop. I can guarantee it.
no, certainly,
Yeah.
certainly, but not
Yeah.
something we're going for either. So I really had to reframe it in my mind. It was just like such a light bulb and such like and I don't usually come down on myself that way. Like I'm willing to accept I'm an idiot and like move on to the next thing. But this one hit me. I was like, fuck, man, you stupid asshole. What do you mean go make sales? Like, who says that? I don't know. Am I fucking Ben Affleck in that Wall Street movie? Coffee is for closers. Like, fuck you. Go, go make sure that your staff is like being awesome to people, and the sales will come from that. You know.
Dude, I'm getting a little bit clenched hearing it. Thank you, buddy. I know I led you to that one, but you hit it hard. Good job, good job. I gave you a fat one over the plate, and you put it right over the fence. I appreciate
Home
that.
run. Home run.
Do you have any plans for expansion?
I don't know. It's something we think about. I can't make the space I have any bigger. We've
Okay.
maxed out the size
There's
that we
only
have.
so many yoga studios you can take down, Eitan.
Oh, I'll find another one. That's where location two will be. It better have been a yoga studio before.
God damn it.
It's hard too because I can't really picture being anywhere else. I think in a broad sense, like Oakland is who we are. It's such a big part of who we are. Um, our neighborhood is who we are. I'm also so heavily invested in this physical space financially. Like when I moved in, it was an empty drywall box. It didn't have electrical. It didn't have any finishes. So, I've spent a lot of money on making it a pretty store. And doing that again would be
You had to pay a lot
challenging. It
for
would,
labor because you're no good with tools. So
yeah,
that's
exactly. And my friend, you think you got a bunch of construction friends. Oh, they're going to come in and hook it up. No, nobody in construction hooks it up. That's bullshit. See, my friends are assholes. That's why I need the clip to tell them how nice I am. And I'm going to send it to Mike and Kevin and be like, listen, Adam said I'm a nice guy, and he probably should have charged me less to make this store so pretty. But
maybe this one time you could have done I'm trying to start something here, and you could have helped a brother out.
Could have. So, if we were to if we wanted more space, I think it would have to be in Oakland. I think Cape and Cowl would do well in some other places. I do think Cape and Cowl would do well in San Francisco, but I'm not really trying to go in there and step on the toes of these people who, I really respect and love their stores, could potentially come here into Berkeley. I mean, like any retailer, I'm walking down every street and looking in every window and saying, this would be a cool comic shop. This would work. This neighborhood would work. There's, and like, I'm obsessed with my store, right? Like I think about my store so much. It's unhealthy, and if can I do that with two stores? Can I give the same amount of love to a second store? And I think I've heard other people talk about this, like the second store never gets the same attention, or the first store suffers because there's a second store.
I think the problem with it's that second store that's always the challenge for the regional chains. The second store decides whether or not they're going to grow, right? It's because it's the hardest one, because now not only everything becomes exponentially harder, not just twice as hard. So you have to go through that process. It's not until store 3 or 4 that you start building in systems to take on some of the load, so that it becomes incrementally harder each one. But that's
right.
It's a leap. It's a big leap of faith,
Plus, I wing it. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not a big time systems guy. Just like
Yeah.
let's go for it day by day. If we come up with a cool system, like let's try and let everybody know, uh, and make it a thing. Um,
You're just playing
so
jazz. Yeah.
not just playing jazz, man.
Mm.
I feel like that would be really hard to do in two places, and um, yeah. And like I said before, like I'm in my making up for lost time zone right now. Like I'm trying to
Right.
be with my kids. I'm trying to be home. I'm trying to walk the dogs. I'm trying to exist outside of the four walls of the store. So
So it's when those kids go to
it,
college, that's when we start seeing Cape and Cowl 2 and Cape and Cowl 3 and Cape and Cowl 4,
that,
huh?
that's when I
Yeah.
bring a sleeping bag and I'm at the shop and my wife changes the locks and I'm just yeah, I'm the store cat of my own store.
All right, you have you're a fan, and I cannot say thank you enough to anybody who is listening to this, because this is, I would do this for nothing if nobody else was listening. Just, I mean, it means I get to have more interesting conversations because the theory is someone else will be listening, but I would do it anyway, especially this one. This has been wonderful. But you are a fan of the show, so I'm assuming you have an answer for this next question. What is the biggest risk facing the direct market today?
I think for me, for the way I see it, there's a lack of promotion from on the publisher side um, to our customers, um,
Mhm.
to the people that we are selling comics to.
Mhm.
I think so I primarily run the store's social media accounts, right? Like the Instagram account in particular, which follows something like 2,000 other accounts. They're almost all comics, with a
Right.
few hockey ones sprinkled in because I like to watch videos of people doing fancy things. But it's almost all hockey, and I'm amazed that I almost never get fed advertising from publishers. I, as an account following 2,000 comics accounts on social media, you'd think I'd be
Mhm.
a prime target to be like, hey, there's a book coming out. Um, go to your comic shop, go to our digital platform, go read this comic book somewhere. And I don't see it. And I think that's actually a big problem. I think, and I bet you could push back on this a little bit, but I think publishers may see us or comic shops, or it feels to me like they have 2,500 to 4,800 pro bono marketing firms working on promoting and selling their books, and I wish I got 10% of the emails I get every day, and that time and energy was put into reaching out to my customers. And I don't even care if you want to sell to them. Like if you're a publisher and you want to sell Ninja Turtles #1 to my customer, go for it. Like I just want them to read Ninja Turtles #1. They'll find their way into my store after reading that. They're gonna need a comic book store when they're reading comics. So please get people out there reading comics. Put your money and your energy and your time into getting people to read comics. And I'm sure they do, and I just don't know. But
Listen,
hey,
all right, so let's talk about that. And I did want to let you, again, I'm trying to be conscious of the fact that that answer might be presented on its own. So I don't, oftentimes it's not I'm not interjecting because I don't have something to say. I'm not interjecting because I want you to be able to say it. But I think that there's a couple of things that you wrapped up in there, and I think you acknowledged the challenge. As publishers have a minimum amount of dollars to spend, and these days that minimum amount has gotten shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. So for them, they have a couple of questions. How do we get in front of the retailer who is our client, our customer? How do we get the retailer to make those bets? And with so many stores, as we mentioned earlier, not making bets outside of subscriptions, well then, then the question becomes, how do I get to the customer? What we've seen and what you're seeing is that they're not doing social media ads, partially because the way social media ads generally work is you need to be selling something. You need to be getting a response back. There has to be a close. And I can't, as a publisher, say, visit your local comic shop and buy my comic wherever good comics are sold, because most of the stores that sell comics are only going to sell Marvel and DC, right? So if what we're talking about is, should Marvel and DC be spending that money, then, possibly, but they have plenty of arguments for their side of why they are not as well, but they're a whole different animal than most people I work with. So I'm going to limit my response to what I have some expertise in. So there's that. Should we be because if you're selling an ad that has a response, let's say, for instance, distilleries doing a ton of social ads. I'm sure you've been fed many of those. And they say, go buy from distillery.com. You've also seen how many retailers have said, I don't like how you're doing that, right? You and I have both seen those same posts. So no matter, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. So the question becomes, is it effective? And that's the real tough question to answer if you're not selling directly to the customer. If you're selling directly to the customer, it's effective because they're buying it from you. But if you're saying go to local comic shop or buy from Amazon, well, that's also going to piss people off. So
yeah,
there is no winning in that particular scenario, and I think that's why you don't see it.
Yeah, I understand, and I don't know if I'm right, and I don't know if anybody agrees with me. But I've always believed that, like, people reading comics in any form and from anywhere is good for comic shops. I mean, it's why, like, having comics at the grocery store, where my very first comic book came from, was
Right.
so successful, right? And so we're not in a comics in the grocery store world anymore, but we're in a comics on your phone world and a comics on your iPad world. And, like, I genuinely support people reading comics that way, because, again, they're gonna make it to my store if they do. Like, they're gonna become comics people, and they're gonna and they might only be digital readers, but you can't, when you want to give a gift to somebody, you need to go get one, right? Like, please don't email people a code to read a comic. Like, that's a shitty present. I'm sorry. Like, don't do that. I don't even know if that's a thing, but that sucks. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So, I don't think, like, that might not be a view shared by other retailers, because I do see that. Like, they don't like the retailers who speak up don't like publishers who sell directly. I think those guys are wrong. And I think the place for visit your local comic shop is probably like a print ad, which, like, comics are full of. Like, they're all a Marvel or DC book. It's like only Marvel and DC ads, right? They don't actually sell ad space to, like, candy companies or whatever anymore.
They don't have enough circulation. So now what they do is those ads are really just a way of paying off the licensor. So they sell the license for whatever, right? Either they're in-house ads for their products that they sell, the comics that they're selling, or it's we sold you this license for candy, and for Spider-Man shaped candy. And so part of what the make good that we're going to give you is we're going to put an ad for your Spider-Man shaped candy in the book. So it ends up being part of that package.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So again, like, even if those publishers we're like, I respect that, like, they need to get money back out of doing those ads. Go get that money. Go get it. Like, please, I'm begging you. I think we really need you to go get that money. I think I will get more money if you go get yours.
Well, listen, I will tell you that I one of my, my money comes from talking to publishers. One of my biggest talking points to them when they say, how do we get retailers to buy more of our books? And I say, you have to sell it for them. You have to sell the consumer first. And if you're selling the consumer, even if you're immediately selling it to them, like, say, Kickstarter, what you're doing is you're growing the market for that retailer. You're growing the perceived demand of your product, even if that retailer's not getting it. And yes, there are a minority of loud retailers who think that you're taking money off of their plate. I don't believe that's the case. I believe all you're doing is adding more audience for them to sell to. So yeah.
Right. You got to look beyond that like individual product that's being sold on Kickstarter
Yeah.
or whatever. It's not about the Berserker slipcase or the GI Joe omnibus. It's not. That's not it.
And
Like
how
that.
many Berserkers and GI Joes have you sold this year? A lot is
A
the
lot.
answer. Yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one item in a sea of just 10 zillion items.
So with that it being the case, nobody's out there promoting for you. You're on your own. What gives you hope?
It's the people. I mean, I'm floored by the people who have decided to devote their life to comics when they could clearly be making more money and probably be living uh, a different type of lifestyle doing something else. I mean, yourself, Adam, like somebody as dedicated and creative and good with people as you are. You could do anything. Jen Haynes is owns comic book stores. Are you fucking kidding me?
I know.
And Avi from Silver Sprocket and the Katie Pride and just like I'm just like we have the best people and they're doing comics like they could like that's like yeah that's super hopeful when I look around and see who else is in this world.
Dude, I'm the first subscriber to your podcast because you're speaking my language, dude. That's awesome. Is there anything else you want to share before we start to wind this little thing down of ours?
Yeah, I know you guys do research on people. I was super nervous on what might pop up from a
There's
misspent
not a
youth,
lot on
but
you. I will tell you. I
okay,
tried to dig. I
good.
tried to dig a little. But what I found was that it didn't surprise me. It all kind of reinforced what we were talking about. And I didn't. If you have some sort of secret country fusion album out there, I was not able to find it. I don't. I was not
That
able to find any hockey footage. I was very disappointed.
it's funny. I must have been yesterday or something. I'm like having
Yeah.
some butterflies about this, and I'm thinking about
Oh.
what you guys might find online. I turn to my wife and like, there's there's a score sheet from a hockey game maybe 20 years ago where a situation really got away from me. And I was like, fuck, what if Adam finds that? And he's like, what about that time? And I was like really
My best
anxious about that.
My favorite part is I was not able to find it, but you've outed yourself. So you're going to have to send it to us for the show notes now. We have to see it. I'm sorry. That's just
All
no way
right,
around it.
I'll see if I can find it. Not my proudest moment.
What do I know about hockey? Awesome. Where can folks find you? Where can they find the shop? Where can they find Comics Pro?
Sure. The store, Cape and Cowl Comics, is at Cape Cowl Comics on everything, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, TikTok. Um, and I do have a personal Instagram. It's Cape Cowl Manhoff, I think, which I post to once or twice a year. I did post like 2 days ago because my kid actually pulled something out of a claw machine. Like, have you
What?
ever seen anybody pull something out of a claw machine?
I mean, yes, I have actually. My
Honest
kid
question.
has once pulled something out of the claw machine, but that was the first time I ever saw anybody pull something out of the claw machine. And I was shitty dad. I didn't take video. Yeah.
Oh, I got, hey, if you want something for the show notes, I got 20 pictures of my kid with a purple or pink dog that she pulled out of a claw machine because I couldn't fucking believe it. I couldn't believe she got something
That's
out of that machine.
going in. Steph, we gotta make sure that one goes in the show notes. Yeah.
Um, and Comics Pro, find us on Instagram. That's the one we're trying to build. So please follow at We Are Comics Pro. Would love a few more eyes on that. And then there is a Facebook page, public facing, Comics Pro, and that is where you will see the exact same thing I put on Instagram, but on a different format.
I will tell you, the most useful thing, I think it's been on the social since then, was how do you find the room where Comics Pro programming is at San Diego?
Right?
Hugely helpful. I actually sent somebody to that. I'm like, here, just use this. Yep. Awesome. Hi again. Thanks so much for watching Comic Industry Insiders. It, as always, is our pleasure to talk to the movers and shakers of comics and to bring you those conversations. We'd love it if you'd support us with a like and subscribe, and telling your friends is always good, but really what we'd want to do is hear from you. Any questions, any suggestions you have about our show, any suggested guests, frankly, anything at all, we'd love to hear from you. Our producer is nearly always Stephanie Gerk, and our researcher is Anthony Militano, who makes me look much smarter than I am. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Namaste, y'all.